Good afternoon, Tuscaloosa, Internet world. How are we doing out there on a beautiful Monday? This is West Alabama, right here in downtown Northport. I am Joe Gaither on the Joe Gaither Show, right here on BamaCentral and BamaCentral.com. Hope you're having a great Monday. We're going to get things rolling on a new week. How about that? You can follow us all at BamaCentral. We're a proud part of the BamaCentral Broadcasting Network with our friends Blue Collar Unplugged, Blake Byler, Matthew Gibson, and Jacob Pickle, bringing you all things Alabama basketball. They set you up with a new episode last week, like Thursday, Friday or so. Go check them out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on Amazon. And that's where you can find me, as well as on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter at Joe Gaither 6 on all your social media platforms. You can find me there. Send me your comments, questions, queries, and complaints. All right, so hope you had a great weekend. We had mostly a good weekend right around here in downtown Northport. It was beautiful. A little bit cold. Got a little rain, just a teeny bit, but it was perfect. Starting to feel a little bit like December. But let's start. Let's talk Alabama basketball. Let's see. What are my topics today? Alabama basketball, Rose Bowl practice opening. We got a little bowl reaction from the weekend. Early enrollees. We'll touch on those, and the Alabama-Mississippi All-Star game over the weekend. All right, let's start with basketball, since that was the action that we have to analyze, and then we will get into kind of the off-the-field stuff as Nick Saban talks tonight at 6 p.m. in the Naylor Stone Media Room. So let's talk basketball. The Crimson Tide, look, you got to talk about it. You got to face the facts. The Crimson Tide lost to number 8 Creighton 85-82 over there in Nebraska on Saturday evening. Mark Sears, his his half-court heave was, 5, 6, a couple of inches away from going down and forcing overtime. But goodness gracious, it's the second week in a row that Alabama plays a top-tier opponent and comes up disappointed, and it looked almost identical to last Saturday against Purdue. You had Nick Pringle and Mohamed Wague foul out last Saturday against Purdue. Well, surprise, surprise, you had Mohamed Wague and Nick Pringle foul out this past Saturday against Creighton. You gave up 22 to Trey Alexander, 20 to Baylor Shireman, 19 to Ryan Kalkbrenner. Of course, Kalkbrenner is going to get his action, is going to get his points at 7 foot and change. So he's kind of that Zach Edey type. And really, I don't know. I hate saying this because I usually like to be Mr. Positive, but I don't know that the team showed any improvement from 2 weeks ago against Purdue to this past Saturday against Creighton. Now, you can say, oh, Joe, they stayed in it. They were in the fight. They were in control of the game with a top 10 team. And you're right. They were. They absolutely were. They were in control of the game. They were largely on the precipice of, in the even game in the first half. And then the second half, Alabama took control a little bit, stretching out to a 6-7 point lead with 10 minutes left or so in the second half. They took control in the second half just a little bit, but right around 6 minute mark or so. 6 minute mark, Creighton goes on a big old run, and Alabama just implodes. Kalkbrenner went with like 3 dunks in a row, and Creighton basically didn't look back. Alabama kept biting back at the lead, but never could get that defensive stop. That would allow them to get back into the game. All right, so let's think about it. Foul trouble, look, we just hit on it. It was the exact same thing. What happens? Why do they get into foul trouble? It's really, you think about, Nick Pringle, Mohamed Wague, they got to be better. Yes, they do, but it's got to be on Aaron Estrada and Mark Sears as well, because whoever's guarding the ball when they when they bring it up the floor is getting beat off the ball. And thus, the post player steps into rotation. The Nick Pringle, Mohamed Wague, or whoever, Jaron Stevenson, is coming into rotation, and the defense shifts into rotation to cover everybody's mishaps, basically to help defense. And that's the way it works, and that's A-okay. But the fact of the matter is, if the on-ball defender, if the original on-ball defender, Aaron Estrada or Mark Sears, doesn't get beat off the ball so easily, get beat to the hole so easily, get beat off the dribble so easily, you're not sending everybody into rotation as much or as quickly, and thus everybody is a little more set into themselves and not fouling, not playing outside themselves, not sent. Look, I think this team, when they get thrown into rotation, defensive rotation, is not very confident in their rotations, not very confident where they need to go, not very confident. Nick Pringle says, I got to rotate here and this person's going to cover me. I don't think there's a whole lot of trust. If I rotate, the person behind me's got my rotation, and then the person behind him's got his rotation, and everything works like kind of an amoeba symbiotic defense. I don't think there's that kind of trust that there was in the Herb Jones year, and really even last year. So that throws you, with the lack of trust, it throws you into, all right, well, Pringle is out of position, Waukkee's out of position, and finally somebody gets a pass right down into the post, and Pringle and Waukkee are right there stuck on Kalkbrenner, stuck on a 7-footer in a bad position, stuck on Zach Edey 2 weeks ago in a bad position, or rotating into a guard on a bad position, and boom, taking a dirty foul, taking an unfortunate foul, taking a cheap foul. You're getting unfortunate fouls because the players are playing out of position. The players are playing outside of their frame, and then they're getting out of control with their hands. And so, look, you have to fix that. That's an area that we can look at from an analytical standpoint and say this is something that Alabama can fix this year. You're not going to sprout another 7-footer. You're not going to snag. Charles Bediako off the San Antonio Spurs G League roster. Like, those things aren't happening. There's nobody in the transfer portal right now who's going to come help you. Aiden Sherrill is still a year away at 6'10", 6'11". Like, these guys, those solutions aren't there. The solution is to get better on defense. The solution is to foul less. The solution is to stay within yourself and rotate better. The solution is to have Aaron Estrada play a little bit lower, look at his hip level, let's play a little bit lower, and have a little bit quicker feet. Look, this team just has a defensive problem. You go out to Creighton and you'll give them 56% from the field, and then on top of that, you send them to the line 29 times. They made 21 free throws in the game, scored 1.25 points per possession, and we all know what does Coach Oats want to get at on a defensive side of the floor? 0.6. 0.7. He wants you to hang out in between 0.6, 0.7 points per possession. Defensively, he says that's really your goal from the Alabama standpoint. That will put you into a winning position. 1.25, that's double. That's right at double the 0.6. Like, you are playing so far away from the standard on the defensive side of the floor that it is not even funny. And so, you talk about, these guys rotating poorly, and really, golly, it really showed itself on Saturday with Muhammad Waukee. He played 2 minutes in the second half, and before he fouled out. He had three fouls and didn't even break the 2-minute mark in the second half. So, like, you've got to play within yourself. You got to fix the fouls. You got to fix the defensive side of the floor. And how do you do it? Look, we've seen Alabama go 1-4 through the first, against Power 5 opponents this year in 2023, and that's really, 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 really ugly. Now, granted, you got to look a little deeper. You can throw that stat out and say 1-4. Oh my gosh, Alabama is so bad. Or you can look at the schedule and say 1-4. Okay, you lost to Creighton, you lost to Purdue. There's 2 losses. Okay, the Ohio State and the Clemson losses. Those are 2 losses that you just don't love. I know Clemson has creeped into the top 25, but really, you played tough opponents. Sure, you have, but the 1-4 start, you kind of got to look a little bit deeper into to see who you played, but you also not played very well. So how do you fix it? You've got a nice little sample size of what it looks like against bigger and better competition. Do you throw a zone defense out there? Do you throw a zone defense out there and say, hey, we're lighter in the post, we're thinner in the post, we need to, protect Muhammad Waukee and Nick Pringle and rotate less and basically play zone defenses so that, okay, we challenge teams to beat you on the perimeter? Is that an area? I mean, Nate Oats has not really done that a whole lot through his 5 years here in Tuscaloosa. He hasn't really done that a whole lot. But maybe that's the answer for this year's team. You've got to figure it out on defense where you're not getting into where the foul trouble is not dictating your rotation so much because, look, every time you throw a guy out there, oh, he's getting a foul. You can't keep guys on the floor. Like Wagi, he was I'm sorry, I don't want to say it this way, but he was pointless on Saturday. Thanks for making the trip. I hope you enjoy the team meal and the flight, but you sat down on the floor in the second half and you gave 3 fouls in under 2 minutes. Basically, pointless trip from Mohamed Wagi. And so really unfortunate. Where this team is. I wanted them to be further ahead. No, did I think they would be undefeated? Do I think they would go 3-0 in this stretch? No, I didn't. But I thought that they would, you've got to get over the hump. Look, the offense is there. The offense put up their worst shooting performance of the season. They made what, 4 3-pointers? Is that what I had? 4 of 22. Let me double check. 4 of 22. Yeah, they were 4 of 22 from behind the line. They got to the free throw line 13 times. They made 8 of 13. So, okay, 62%. You got to be better than that. But then from the floor, you're 47%. Not bad from the floor. Just terrible, awful from the 3-point line. You had 62 points in the paint. You still put up 82 points. Think back to the Avery Johnson, Anthony Grant days, where you're only going well. First off, you wouldn't have taken 22 3-point shots, but at 62 points in the paint, that's all you would have gotten. That's literally all you would have gotten in those days. This basketball team, even with the terrible shooting on Saturday, put up 82 bleeping points on the road. So, the offense is literally there. I don't really have a whole lot of complaints on the offensive side of the floor other than, hey, I'd like to see you make a higher clip than 4 of 22, 18%. Come on, can we get around 30, 40%? I mean, 40 would be great. Can we get around 30% from the floor? You go double, double 8. That's 8 of 22, and boom, you've won the ball game pretty much going away. So, look, this basketball team, they have a lot of potential. They do. They have a lot of potential. Alabama's got a lot of potential, but you failed so far to tap into it. You failed so far to really figure out a way to put a winning product on the floor. And Coach Oats acknowledged it on Saturday. He said, we played with every one of these teams, but we've just failed to do the winning things at the end of the game. Well, Mark Sears drives at the end of the game with 16 seconds left, puts a 2-pointer in and makes the layup. Great, but he throws you into a little bit of a time bind at the end of the game. Look, you've just got to do the little things better all around, and whether that's Aaron Estrada playing 10% better, especially on the defensive side of the floor, whether it's Mark Sears with 19 points led you again, and Mark Sears is no big guy. He's 5'11", 6 foot. He's no big guy. So he's been doing his job this whole season, in my opinion. You just need more consistency out of everybody. I think that Grant Nelson really hasn't been as good, in these last 2 games against Purdue and against Creighton. Now 13 points. You're going to take that every time. 5 rebounds. He was a part of that foul trouble. 3 fouls against Creighton as well. But you want just 5-10% more out of Nelson. If you can take him from 5 of 14 shooting to 8 of 14 shooting, give me some of that. Give me some of that action. We'd appreciate that. He was 2 for 2 from the free throw line, so obviously you appreciate the efficiency there. But the basketball team has a lot of the tools. It's still early in the year. How do you feel right now? Where are you on the bottom line? You're playing Arizona. You're playing Arizona on Wednesday, the number 4 team in the country. Arizona was undefeated before they lost to Purdue on Saturday as well. So you get a nice little kind of triangle of competition between Arizona, Purdue, and Alabama here in these 2 weeks. Look, I feel like against Arizona at 10 p.m. first. 10 p.m. on Wednesday night is absurd. Granted, I will be up just because I'm a night owl, but come on, I got buddies who have families who don't want to stay up that late until 11:30 watching the end of a basketball game. I've got a lot of fans who will not like that start time, 10 p.m. on Wednesday night. You've got another chance to win a huge game. get a top 5 win on your resume. And do I think Alabama can win? Of course I do. But where I'm feeling right now is I'm not getting any of my hopes up. I'm not hinging my emotional stability on this basketball team because I've seen what they can be so far. I've seen that they have a really, really efficient and really incredible offense, and they can score in a number of different ways. They can beat you a number of different ways on the offensive side of the floor. But I've seen that the defense is just not really there. The defense is kind of, I don't want to say apathetic, because I do think that the guys care. But there's I think there's a lack of understanding, a lack of confidence on the defensive side of the floor that is causing, your problems on the defensive end. And so because of that, when you're playing your Purdue's, you're playing your Creightons, and likely when you're playing your Arizonas and your Caleb Loves and Jaden Bradley coming off the bench, I think that that's going to be a problem. When your defense isn't there and can't travel, look, I know it's a neutral game, but it is in Phoenix, right there in their backyard. It's going to be a problem. Do I think Alabama can win? Of course. Am I going to watch it hoping that Alabama finally has it click? Yes, I will. But my prediction and my feel for the game right now is that Alabama's probably going to lose a 7-point ball game, a 6-point game. A nice close game. It'll be entertaining. It'll be high scoring. Alabama will take some leads at some points, but they're going to do some things that will infuriate you down the stretch that allows the Arizona Wildcats to move to, I think, 9-1 on their season. So there's our basketball talk for the day. Always, you can comment on the on any of the shows on the Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, YouTube side of things at Joe Gaither 6. Our comments are live right there. I see a lot of you guys watching us today. I really appreciate that so much. I've seen the growth on all the metrics across all the platforms: Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, and Apple Podcasts. I cannot thank you guys enough. It's been a great year. I know we still have like 2 more weeks left in the year. It's been a blast working with BamaCentral, like such a blast. I know that I'm not going to go out to the Rose Bowl with our team. We're going to send Katie Wyndham, Austin Hannon, and Blake Byler. I want to say a special happy birthday to Katie Wyndham, but I will go to the national championship if and when the Alabama Crimson Tide makes it. So I'm very, very excited about that. But this has been a huge blast the whole year working with BamaCentral. Since May, at least, we're looking forward to our 1-year anniversary in May, this coming up year, May 2024, with BamaCentral. So I want to say thank you to Chris Walsh for that. So with all that, let's flip into postseason football mode, because on Friday, all the players re-reported, and Alabama football had practice on Saturday. When I wrap this show up here in about 30 more minutes or so, I'm going to go over to the Mailer Stone media room and listen to Nick Saban talk about, what he's been doing on the road. Well, he can't talk recruiting quite yet. Wednesday will be more recruiting. He's going to talk about Michigan. It's all going to be about bowl prep. It's all going to be about, the plan. He's going to update everybody. Well, everybody came back and did real good in the 2 weeks. Nobody's really injured. We look forward to getting really healthy. Michigan's a good program. We're going to hear all that in the press conference here in just a little bit. But I've got a couple of keys, because I've watched a lot of Michigan in the last couple of weeks. I've watched a lot of Michigan the last few weeks, and I got to tell you, the Big Ten Football League is bad. It's not a good football league. It's terrible. All right, that might be a little harsh. Excuse me as I sip my coffee. That might be a little harsh. Terrible might be a little harsh, but they're not. I mean, come on. Purdue, Indiana, Northwestern, they're not good football teams. Illinois, they're not good football. Rutgers, I watched them play that game. Not good football. This is not your Arkansas, who is not really a good football team, but can beat you. Look, Arkansas came into Tuscaloosa, we all understand, and hadn't won a game, and they played Alabama to a 3-point game. Arkansas played better than they were here in Tuscaloosa. And same thing when Alabama went down to Auburn. Look, you can say rivalry game, though. That's why, but that's why. But really, Alabama went down to Auburn and played a team that wasn't as good as them, but it ended up being an epic game, a close game, because the SEC, the margin for error is not razor thin, but it's fairly thin. It's fairly small. It's fairly small. Look, the Big Ten, it's not that. The keys to beating Michigan, I think the biggest thing is coming out physical at the very beginning. Michigan's gotten a lot of fast starts. I think the key is to come out and punch them right in the mouth right off the bat, because they have won the line of scrimmage in largely every single game, and won the line of scrimmage handily, not really even being challenged. So I think it's going to be very important for the very early part of the game out in the Rose Bowl for Alabama to say, hello, we are not your Big Ten Purdue. We are not Minnesota. We are not Illinois. Like, come on, we're going to punch you in the mouth. You want to win this line of scrimmage, you got to come take it from us on the offensive and defensive side of the football. So I think the very first thing that Alabama has to do and has to emphasize as bowl practice is getting started is reestablishing the physicality that Alabama really kind of found towards the Kentucky LSU game. Didn't really get into it much with Chattanooga or Auburn, but really they did find it at certain points in the year. Second thing is you got to keep J.J. McCarthy in the pocket, and you got to lock down Roman Wilson. Look, I'm very confident Roman Wilson is their wide receiver one. He's good. He's pretty good. He's not. I don't think he's a superstar. I don't think he's I don't really think he's a wide receiver one like in the NFL, but he's pretty good. He's a good little burner. He's not overly tall. He's not a small guy either. He's probably closer to a Ja'Cory Brooks type, even though, I know Ja'Cory Brooks left Alabama, but he's kind of like that. He's got a little bit of speed to him. He's got just a little bit of size to him, not overly big, but good little player. I am confident in Kool-Aid or Terrion Arnold locking him down. The biggest thing is you got to keep J.J. McCarthy in the pocket on passing plays and really get after him quickly, because JJ likes to make quick decisions, and he's good at it. He's made good decisions all year long. I know that I think of higher of JJ McCarthy than most people do, but I think he's a pretty good little player, and Alabama's going to have to do some things to keep him in the pocket, not let him get away in running action. I do kind of think that if you're a gambling person, a good little prop bet would be JJ McCarthy rushing touchdown, because if Michigan's inside the 15-yard line, I do foresee a quarterback draw on the menu, and I see it dialed up for a touchdown. No turnovers is easy. Look, you think back to Alabama's one loss. You had the 2 turnovers against Texas, and not only was it 2 turnovers, but the 2 turnovers were in negative territory for Alabama, or they resulted in short fields for Texas. Here's the deal. Michigan, they have eaten up a lot of clock, taken a lot of drives, just grinding teams down, and that's why you see some of these scores are like 31-10 or like 41-7 or like something like that. They are slowly and surely, as I've said throughout, as I've used the Alabama Anaconda analogy, Michigan is doing exactly that, choking their opponents out slowly but surely. Alabama's got to make them march. Alabama has to defend 70-yard fields, 60-yard fields, that kind of defense to force them into mistakes, to slow them down, to make them get into a passing effort. If you turn the football over, Jalen Milroe, if you turn the football over and you give Michigan a 35-yard field, if you give Michigan, what did you give Texas on that fourth quarter touchdown? A 10-yard field, something like that. It was a very, very short field against the Texas Longhorns. Look, if you give the Maize and Blue these short fields, you're going to lose. You're going to lose, period. And so no turnovers is easy, but it is kind of like your big bottom line. Those are my three big keys right now. Watching the Michigan Wolverines, physicality, winning the line of scrimmage, keeping J.J. McCarthy in the pocket, and not turning the football over. Okay, we're keeping rolling on the Joe Gaither show. I got a couple more topics. Bowl practice. We already did a little bit of that. We got a little bit of a bowl game reaction from the weekend. And Alabama, Mississippi All-Star game, and of course Ryan Williams watch. Okay, bowl games of the weekend. If you listen to the Friday show, the Football Friday show, I appreciate that very much. I went 4-3 on this past Saturday slate. Thanks so much for Jacksonville State winning over Louisiana. That was my favorite game of the weekend. Great to see Jacksonville State win a bowl game, and great to see Rich Rodriguez bring a big old win back to the state. Tonight, obviously right now there's a bowl game going on. I missed whoever it was in my prep. There's a bowl game going on at the moment, but tomorrow UTSA is playing Marshall in the Scooters Coffee Bowl, and I will take UTSA. We'll keep up with my bowl record over the course of bowl season. Old Dominion is leading Western Kentucky 35-48. 35-28 with 9:42 left in the game. So that's what's going on in the famous Toastery Bowl right here on a Monday. Look, early enrollees, we talked about that on Friday. We talked about early enrollees. We have 11 early enrollees. You can read about them on BamaCentral.com. Our man Austin Hannon did an inside look at several of them, and we talked about them, of course, on the Friday show. But what I want to talk about in terms of early enrollees are the guys who are the guys who participated in the Mississippi-Alabama All-Star Game, or should I say Alabama-Mississippi All-Star Game, the game that Alabama won. Alabama ended up winning 26-17. Ryan Williams, look, we've talked about him on the show. I got a little sidebar about him in just a minute. But Ryan Williams on the field, 8 receptions, 92 yards, 2 touchdowns for Team Alabama. Absolutely unreal. Jeremiah Beeman, 7 tackles, 1 sack, and Quentin Reese with 8 tackles. But really, I want to single out Dre Kirkpatrick Jr., because we've talked about Ryan Williams a ton. We have, and deservedly so. And we will talk about Ryan Williams a whole lot more. Hey. As the dog is scratching herself, shaking the lamppost. Sorry about that. No, we've talked about Ryan Williams a ton, and we will literally talk about him for the next billion years. I'm sorry. But I want to talk about Dre Kirkpatrick. Look, he's a 3-star prospect. Everybody knows he's Dre's son. Everybody knows what Dre did here at Alabama. Great player, first-round draft pick, national SEC champion, great player, great cornerback. You've seen Dre this year, and I think a lot of people have a misconception that Dre Kirkpatrick Jr. has a scholarship offer to Alabama just because of his daddy. Now, I think there certainly is a little bit of nepotism at play there, but the deal is this young man can play. I think this young man can really play. Listen to what he did. Listen to what he did in the Alabama-Mississippi All-Star Game. 2 interceptions. He forced a fumble in the same fumble that he recovered, and he blocked a punt. My man Brett Greenberg didn't have his tackles listed, but think about that. Think about that. It's 2 interceptions and a fumble that he forced. I watched it. He forced and he recovered it, and he blocked a punt. So that's 3 turnovers and a dynamic play on special teams. I know you guys look at the recruiting rankings on 247 and On 3 and Rivals, and I do too. They do great work. They cover it a lot better than I do. But I think that they have maybe, and it might be the homerism in me. It absolutely might be the homerism in me. But I think that they've absolutely missed. I think they've missed the mark with Dre Kirkpatrick Jr. Every time that I've had any of my friends or my reporter buddies or anyone watch him play, they've seen turnovers. They've seen impactful plays. I've heard, teams just don't throw at Dre Kirkpatrick Jr. anymore. I know he played a lot of safety in Gadsden City, and he's probably going to play safety here at Alabama. And look, it might take him a little bit to get onto the field, and he may never get on the field. You don't know what's going to happen with these prospects. But I think that Ryan Williams is going to be the bee's knees. I'm confident in saying we're going to talk about him for the next 3 years here at Alabama, and ideally, if he stays injury free, 15 to 20 years in the NFL. 20, that's too far. 15. But Dre Kirkpatrick Jr., I think, is going to be one of these guys that Alabama fans fall in love with because he's going to have to be a hard worker. His size is not necessarily that great, for a safety. But he's 6'1", he's like 6'1", 200 pounds. He's not very like he's got some growing to do. He doesn't have a great frame. To play safety at a big-time level. But, as I said, just look at the numbers right there in the Alabama-Mississippi All-Star Game. Once again, 2 interceptions. He forced a fumble that he recovered himself, and then he got in there for a blocked punt as well as Alabama beat Mississippi 26-17. Now, look, Ryan Williams won the MVP with his two touchdowns. Yes, I know he got into the end zone twice, but to me, if I were in the press box voting for MVP, I'm giving it to the guy who had 3 turnovers on the day, 3 turnovers and a blocked punt on the day. Very, very impactful available for Drake Kirkpatrick Jr. So awesome to get a lot of these guys enrolled early. You've read about it at BamaCentral.com, who will be enrolling early. Obviously, Julian Sayin takes the cake. Julian Sayin, Jeremiah Beeman. I know my man William Sanders was in the Alabama All-Star game, Alabama-Mississippi All-Star game. He's going to be enrolling early as well. You've got a pretty good little class. I don't know how early they're going to make a huge contribution. I think Caleb Hoden might be a guy who can get onto the field decently early. I think Xavier Brown's going to be a guy who can get onto the field decently early in a special teams role. Casey Poe can push for some snaps decently early, I think, because I think he's going to be a big-time player along the offensive line here, and so I'm looking forward to seeing that. But Drake Kirkpatrick Jr., one of the lower-rated players in this year's class, I think is somebody – look, everybody's going to watch him anyways just because of the connection with his daddy, but I think that I think that really – look past the nepotism. I think that he is going to be a real good player here at the Capstone, and I think he's underrated by the recruiting services. All right, last topic for the day, as we've been hanging out with you guys on a Monday. We appreciate everybody watching us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on Amazon. Subscribe, rate, and review the show on any of those platforms. Tell a friend about the show. You've been telling a lot of friends about the show. I really appreciate that so much, and that's been fun to watch the growth on the back end. Last topic for the day is Ryan Williams specific, as the Auburn Tigers hosted Ryan Williams for a visit this past weekend, and really, you know, they had a good time. Really, the whole gist of the deal was Auburn playing USC, and they beat USC 91-75. And the big deal was everybody coming in town to see Bronny James. Bronny James, 5 points on 14 minutes. So not really a huge impact in the game. But what I want to talk about with Ryan Williams is just the hilarity. Ryan Williams is such a generational prospect that if Ryan Williams says, hey, Auburn, I want to come up for, or I want to come down for, yeah, he's coming up, or I want to come over, actually, he's coming over from Saraland to the Auburn area. I want to come over to the Auburn USC game because I want to see Bronny James, and really I'm interested in your program. But he doesn't even say he's interested. I just want to see it. He's such a generational prospect that Auburn has to put him on the list because you cannot risk him. You can't risk him not choosing Auburn. If he chooses Auburn, he changes your program forever. And when he chooses Alabama, which he already has, he's going to continue the excellence and tradition that's already been at the Alabama Crimson Tide with the Alabama program. But he's such a generational prospect that you have to take the chance on him changing his mind. You have to give Hugh Freeze a chance to change his mind. And so, yeah, you said, of course, we're putting you on the list. And what does he do? He wears Alabama gear in the front row of the Auburn student section. He's wearing Alabama gear on his visit as everybody's saying, we want Ryan, we want Ryan. But he's wearing Alabama gear, and they can't even tell him, hey, dude, do you want to wear an Auburn shirt? No, he's sitting there wearing crimson and white, a crimson hoodie, and basically saying, I'm going to Alabama, but I'm so good that you have to take the chance on me changing my mind and therefore invite me to your game or host me at your game. And I know I'm not changing my mind, and I want to rub it into you so much that I'm going to wear Alabama gear, your rivals' gear, into your gym. I just thought it was kind of a hilarious dynamic. Obviously, everybody was excited to see Bronny James, and it was a big recruiting weekend anyways for Auburn, as it was, the end of the end of the cycle, basically, as Wednesday becomes early signing date, and we'll cover Wednesday's national early signing date wall to wall, really here at BamaCentral.com. I'm looking forward to getting up bright and early, probably about 5:45 on Wednesday to get things rolling on your early signing day coverage. Most of everything's in the barn. Hayes in the barn for most of it. You already know, who's signing, who's enrolling. You already hit the 11 early enrollees: Julian Sayin, Xavier Brown, Caleb Bowden, Jeremiah Beeman, Casey Poe, Peyton Woodyard, Sterling Dixon, Joseph Ionata, William Sanders, Caden Jones, and Drake Kirkpatrick Jr. And allegedly, Red Morgan and Isaiah Faga, along with Jameer Grimsley, Justin Okoronkwo, and Jalen Mbakwe, will be signing on Wednesday as well. That's 16 of your 21 members of your class signing on the early signing day period. So pretty much the hay's in the barn on the class. that's pretty much going to do it on the show today. We're going to wrap things up here by letting you know what's coming up next. We are going to talk to Nick Saban here in the Naylor Stone Media Room, coming up at 6 o'clock on BamaCentral.com, and you can find it on the BamaCentral YouTube channel where you find the show. You can find all the coverage. Katie Wyndham, make sure you go bother her, tell her happy birthday. You can find her at Katie Wyndham _ on the Twitter machine. Tell her happy birthday. She leads our coverage. She does such a great job here at BamaCentral.com. We want to wish her a happy 21st birthday, perpetually 21 for Miss Katie Wyndham, as she does such a great job leading us here at BamaCentral.com. We've had a lot of fun talking Alabama basketball. We've had a lot of fun talking Rose Bowl practice and keys to beating Michigan. I'm looking forward to hearing from Nick Saban for the first time in bowl practice rotation. We went 4-3 on Saturday's bowl games. We're picking UTSA in tomorrow's bowl game over the Marshall Thundering Herd. Yeah, over the Marshall Thundering Herd. We talked about the early enrollees and what they did in the Alabama-Mississippi All-Star game. If you missed any of the program, you can find it right there on all the platforms I've already hammered a billion times: Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on Amazon. Tell a friend about the show, The Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central. We'll be back with more of the show on Tuesday as we get inch closer and closer to the college football playoff. We'll keep covering it right here at Bama Central and BamaCentral.com.